All right, gang. Welcome in, Coach. Super pumped to have you. He's got something major for you. The video prep isn't as strong as I would have liked. There's not like as many slides. It's mostly going to be just Coach telling you about how he feels and what he's heard and what he's thinking, right? And this shouldn't be even remotely new to anybody who's been a teammate of Coach's for a while here, contributing in the comments, watching the videos. We've talked about this scenario before, but Coach is saying he really believes it's here. And we're going to talk about this Reddit thread and why Coach thinks it's go time. Okay, so you know that Coach thinks he has the greatest Super Bowl, basically lottery ticket ever, ready to get punched, and we're just trying to get some parlay action, right? He thinks it's a no-doubter that we've nailed the best Super Bowl ever, and it pays pretty good, but not nearly as good as if you were to get another exact result alongside of it, right? And what Coach thinks fits the best, even though Coach can't stand the NBA in some ways. Like, it's insane. I swear, even for the leagues, with all their trickery and stuff, it's like the NBA is the one that can pull out more stops than anybody. The NFL is like right behind them, but it still seems like a huge gap. Like, the NBA is just always with some eye roll crap. And I think it's because like their players aren't expected to be as tough, right? And like the ball, like the nature of the sport, the ball bounces around and stuff. There's more weird things, just like baseball. There's more weird things that can happen than in football, where it's supposed to be more controlled and more organized, right? And more strategy, as opposed in basketball, it's more free flowing, and you're relying on just a handful of people to constantly process things in real time and make the right decisions. It's a bit more acceptable for like horrible brain farts or like a Chris Webber timeout, right? That makes way more sense in the NBA than the NFL, in Coach's opinion. But enough of that. Coach is going to give you, he feels good about SMU as far as, the parlay there and them winning the football championship in college. And there's some hockey teams that interest Coach. He's got his eyes on the Kraken mostly, maybe a little bit on the Sharks, but he's not feeling great there at all. Okay? This is the one that Coach is ready to really go hard on. And if you're a long-term watcher of the channel, it's not like I'm asking some crazy commitment from anybody. I'm not even telling you to bet this. And when Coach bets it, we're talking like $10 max here. But this $10 max, if Coach is right, is going to be like $10 million probably. Okay? And we're pretty positive we've already got half of it. So all we need is this other thing to come together. So what has Coach noticed so far, right? We talked about the Syracuse connections with the Browns, Ernie Davis and Jim Brown, and the Syracuse Nationals. Coach said we're like somewhere in the range of a 76th anniversary for the 76ers, the team who won in 67. And the Sixers brought back their black jerseys from the Iverson era when it was Iverson versus Kobe. Of course, that's an obviously scripted finals because the Sixers never make the finals, and they happen to lose to Philly native Kobe, and Iverson gets like every excuse in the world by having the worst roster to ever make the finals easily. Go try to play with that team in 2K, you'll pull your hair out. Like, it's literally a disaster. And the narratives. Right, so even before that type of stuff, Coach had weird stuff like with Denver and Philly. It's like, well, it's Rocky and it's the Rocky Mountains. Jokic, that's like the Joker. Philly's Batman. We've been hot on the Batman and Superman thing for Cleveland and Detroit. And Batman's winning. So wouldn't it make sense for after Batman beats Superman to beat the Joker? So that kind of seems to line up. It's a bit more abstract. But this is where Coach just really started to not be able to take it anymore. Like, I'm done. We're just going with it. Ed Stefanski is the one who ran Allen Iverson out of town. Kevin Stefanski's dad. The man who has done everything in his power to keep Shedeur off the field and still won't commit to him as the starter after being the first Browns rookie in 45 years to win their first start. You're going to hear the 95 number get thrown around a lot, and Coach showed that one to you. But when you really break it down, that was a little bit different. And what Shedeur did is actually has not been seen on the Browns since 1980. And doesn't that match up perfectly when we're talking about a Kosar curse? So Kevin Stefanski, everybody's accusing him of intolerance, bias against a darker tone, right? If you catch my drift, he's a good old boy. Ed Stefanski accused of a good old boy. Iverson, very strong, outspoken. They had to pass a whole dress code. They had to outlaw his signature move to try to keep this man down. He still found a way to make the finals, right? And what do you know? After all that, where does he end up but fucking Detroit and Denver? I know he went to the Grizzlies too. I'm not quite sure what to make of that. But the Denver one to Coach is the one that really stands out. Okay, and of course, the Pistons too, because Detroit, we got the Detroit being the Batman in football. So it's like that kind of makes sense. But the Denver one with Melo, you had the headband connection. Probably like two best scorers of that generation. And Chauncey Billups just got in a lot of trouble. He was like the log jam with the Iverson deal. I don't know if he was moved in the trade. I'm thinking he was. I think, didn't Billups go to Detroit for Iverson? That makes sense to Coach. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was something like that. And then, it's a long time ago. But what really blew Coach's mind was after all that, watching this clip, Coach was doing some serious digging on YouTube. Coach found this old clip of when Iverson came out of retirement. And that sounds familiar, right? We've talked about coming out of retirement a lot. Well, Iverson did it too, to sign with the Sixers, because Ed Stefanski tried to mend the bridge. And what do you know? He signed a 25-game contract. And we're talking about the 2025 championship here. And we're talking about Shedeur Sanders, who just threw a 52-yard bomb in his debut. Okay, for the flip of 2025, keep in mind that player tripped up at the 1, or it wouldn't have been a 52-yard, right? And Stefanski doing everything to keep Shedeur, his stats in check. And Shedeur still broke 200. It's very obvious that Stefanski did everything to keep Shedeur, right at Brown's QB expectations at best, right? Don't break that critical 200-yard mark that nobody ever does, right? But he did. He's found a way to do it, even though we're talking multiple wildcat formations, right? You're just taking him out of the field completely. We're talking the first time in history has to be, at least since forever ago, before people had legs maybe, that we saw a team who could have put the game away, go up 3 scores. Instead, they punted the ball from the opposing 29-yard line. And it was a really good punt. So they ended up getting 18 yards. Now, if it would have been a touchback, that would have only been a 9-yard net difference. Okay? What the hell is that about? It was 4th and 2. You're that conservative? You play not to lose that hard? What a joke. Okay? So then, looking at the Nuggets and the Sixers specifically, it's crazy Coach has said that much before even actually getting to the teams as they are right now, which is what made them stink to begin with, right? That's what got Coach's attention. What's rotten over here, right? I think Batman laid an egg. Okay, so 76ers and the Nuggets, Jokic and Embiid, not only both MVPs, but Jokic won 2 before Embiid got one. A lot of people thought that second one wasn't deserved and that Embiid deserved it then. So you could argue, there's the easiest argument ever to make, which one's better. All you'd have to do to turn the tide for Embiid is give him 1 ring over Jokic right here and then point to that controversial MVP, right? No, my guy's the 2-time MVP. And not only the champ, but beat your guy, right? But nobody, Jokic got to get all of his glory this whole time. He's been shining hard this whole time. Embiid's been in the mud, right? So that's why it evens out, right? Jokic is super duper. There's nothing Embiid could ever do to erase Jokic's legacy. He can only try to surpass it, right? So, and which is exactly what you would want. You don't want your opponent to be someone like, oh, as soon as I beat them, everybody forgot they were even good. So, like, it doesn't even mean anything that I won, right? Like, if Iverson just stepped over Tyronn Lue, would you care that he beat the Lakers in one game in the finals, right? If Tyronn Lue was their main guy? No, it's because Kobe and Shaq were there. Big shot Bob, right? So we got Jokic, we got Embiid, we got Batman, we got Joker, okay? Generation-defining centers in a league that everybody tells you is all about the guards. Nobody wants a center build on 2K unless they're just trying to play like a 7-foot point guard. Okay, it's literally pathetic what basketball's turned into, right? And then you've got two guys, not just generational, they're redefining the position. They're the ones everybody wants to watch at center, right? The ones that were criticized for not being traditional enough. And Jokic probably not strong enough. He's not athletic enough, right? Embiid, he doesn't have the fundamentals. He's too soft, right? You got so many different things you could say. And Embiid has just been built up like crazy. I've followed Embiid since before day one. You have to understand, Coach wears his bias on his sleeve, and he needs to tell you that, he talks about teams like the Lions and Browns that he comes around on, and he reads 100 fucking books or whatever to try to figure out what's going on there. And then there's teams like the Sixers that he would watch every single game the Sixers played the year they set the record for losing. Coach knows this team. He's diehard, and he's never told you they were going to fucking win. Okay? That's why this is coming like late. This is far from the first time I've been thinking, but there was just enough other stuff going around that I'm like, I can't fully commit. Like LeBron in his 23rd season, and then I really started thinking, he's just going to retire. That's the joke there. You don't have to win a championship in your 23rd year. If you play 23 years, that's notable. And why wouldn't he retire after Brady finally retires the third time? So LeBron's just going off in the sunset. Nuggets beating them for sure. They're not going out sad. They're going to lose to the team that loses to the Sixers. And you could have been like, oh, we could have had Lakers-Sixers rematch. Probably Western Conference Finals, right? So, let's see. Let's look what the comments have to say. Here you go here. They tell me this isn't a little interesting. It would make for some very polite and knowledgeable discourse in this sub. Obviously sarcastic. The two most level-headed and rational subs discussing sophisticated hoops, what could go wrong. So clearly this thread is of the mindset that Sixers fans and Nuggets fans cannot even be reasoned with. And I promise you, I don't know a lot about the Nuggets side of it, okay? But the Sixers side is justified. So let's go on a little journey here. If you think I'm just taking some choker team for no fucking reason, okay? You want to know where we're at? Coach is going to take you back to like the late 2000s or early 2010s, right? The Sixers have been dwelling in mediocrity. Year after year, their best players are never guys anybody cares about. It's like Thad Young, Evan Thomas. The best player through the whole process was Holiday, Drew Holiday, right? Who is a great player and can be a piece of a championship team. But if he can't save, like, you could probably build around him. I believe that. He could be your starting piece and you get to a championship contender from there. I fully believe that. But not if your team doesn't have resources. And if your team doesn't have resources, the only way to rebuild is to do everything to get resources. Okay? So Drew had to be sacrificed as our best player because we had already tried to build around him and failed so miserable with the Andrew Bynum trade, which Coach hated before it even happened. I was like, please, God, no. If for nothing else than it being a trade with the Lakers, it's never going to work well. We're the Sixers. I know our space. We're not going to get over on the Lakers or Celtics ever. How did the Tatum trade go later, right? Coach was the GM. We're never talking to those two teams, and we're probably doing a lot fucking better, okay? And we trade for a center with glass knees who never plays anything. He does nothing noteworthy for the Sixers, barely even sees the court because he gets hurt bowling. He goes bowling and shatters like glass after 1,000 injuries already, right? Coach knew he was made of glass, and there's no way the Lakers would move on from somebody better than who we're moving, right? And what do you know? The guy we trade goes on to win championships with the Warriors. He gets blocked by LeBron in the finals for the big Cavalier, 3-1, all this sort of stuff. This whole time, what of us Sixers fans? We get to watch Cleveland, Believeland, their great fucking awesome run, right? We get to watch the Lakers reap the benefits, right? And there's lots of teams that just get hosed, right? But sometimes you can only fumble away so much before you just fall into winning. Okay, and that's kind of where the Sixers are at. So what the Sixers decided to do after logically trading away their best player, not the Andrew one, right, not the Bynum one, but when they realized they got burned there and they have nothing left basically to show for it, the only thing you can possibly do is get rid of everybody and just start hoarding draft picks. So they hired a guy named Sam Hinkie who came in and was literally the god of losing. Like, I can't even explain. All us Sixers fans wanted, who really knew anything, was please God, don't start winning games now when we have so many picks that are going to matter. We need several years of being horrible, of being absolutely horrible. We want to be the worst in the league. That's our championship, is to not win a game. Okay? Every single game you watch, you are cheering for the guys that were drafted in like the late second round or some free agents or whatever. You're praying that they look like competent basketball players in a loss. You don't want to get blown out. You want it to be close. You want your guys to develop, but please don't develop some pesky winning culture before we're ready, okay? And the GM did a great job of anytime anybody would flash, immediately ship them out for $1. Whatever you can get, and it was always more than you'd expect. Like, man, that MCW haul, like nobody would have thought they were going to get all those picks, right? Blah, blah, blah. Now, fast forward, and the Sixers have set the record for losing. They've made all sorts of trades, right? They've got an ungodly amount of draft picks. I would guess, I never heard any stats about it or anything, but I would bet the core, like, you know, in the midst of the process, like when it was at its peak process, Sixers probably had more draft picks than any team in history. I would almost bet my life. At least, like, I'm not saying they used all of them, but they at least had them there at one point. There's no way they didn't break the record, right? It was just like overflowing. And what do you know? They get some snake, Jerry Colangelo, some good old boy type dude or whatever. They fire the GM who's put them in a position to where they literally cannot lose, right? And did I get confused? Was it not Sam Hinkie? Who's the one there now? I'm not talking about the Rockets guy that's there and that's an idiot, right? The Harden guy. I'm not talking about him. The one that was there before. And if I'm getting the names mixed up, I'll feel real bad. But I'm pretty sure it was Hinkie back then. And basically, they decide to fire him and bring in, you know, James Harden's buddy and Jerry Colangelo, just guys that are complete heels, complete disgrace. Colangelo literally has a burner account where he's responding to trolls on Twitter, right, and gets caught. Like, he's just a complete joke. His dad was a huge loser too, right? You know, Jerry, you don't want a Jerry. You know that from Jerry Jones. Like, Jerry could be, I guess, really good or really bad, but eventually they're going to be really bad. And so you don't want an old Jerry, that's for damn sure. We had an old Jerry. Okay, so old Jerry comes in, starts wrecking shit, and just can't. You know how the NBA works. And keep in mind, ownership change after ownership change. We're owned by Crypto.Butt. Crypto.fart now. You get your fart bucks or whatever the fuck. You know, some ridiculous shit like that. And then get in trouble. Now we're Team China, right? We make little Chinese, like, it was just like, who the fuck are buying these teams, right? Literally, you were having people come in at the very, very top who had no experience in the world of sports even a little bit. They've got no history, no connection to sports. They are the guys that put everything on a spreadsheet and they say, look how much basketball makes this year. We want a basketball. Go get us the big basketball we can find. Okay, the Sixers are for sale. We're now the Sixers. Everybody, now that we're the owners, guess what? It's New Philadelphia. We wear polo shirts and khaki shorts. And keep your belt buckled up. We don't want those I can't even say it, but it was literally like everything but please don't bring blacks to the game. Like, please just stop bringing blacks to the game. Like, it was literally that bad. Coach doesn't usually just fucking say some shit like that. That's really how he felt. And Coach has a good sense of that because, like, somehow Coach doesn't feel welcome where black people aren't welcome. So I can't, like, explain it, but, like, basically, if it's not open to everybody, it's not open to Coach, right? So Coach can feel when, like, certain types of people are being discouraged from coming, and that discourages him from coming. So Coach was just basically like, okay, so Sixers is just an absolute joke now. Just corny, corporate. They don't want anything to do with, like, the underdog. They don't even know that's a thing. They just got handed the basketball team. They're like, okay, non-offensive basketball time. Basketball fun time. You know, like, they didn't know anything. Right, so it's just miserable, completely miserable. Our number one podcaster goes to New York, right? And, well, you know, he's back now. But our number one podcaster goes to New York. He comes back. They're the ones that, like, started the whole process talk. They're telling you, we need a tank, we need a tank, we need a tank, right? Everybody else telling you no. And, you know, the whole theme song is we were right, we were right. Either they're right and they're going to get a championship and they get to play that 100 times, or you can think they did it all for nothing. You can think, I'm telling you, the big tell is how many major movies and commercials and weird stuff take jabs at the process. The process has permeated the mainstream, right? I hear people throw it out for, like, stuff completely unrelated to the Sixers now. Like, they'll just say, trust the process, right? So we've been conditioned to trust the process. And the process is Embiid, okay, who's nicknamed the process. And basically, I didn't get to it, but so when they got these, like, splashy owners and stuff, what they tell you is that they always want to make their mark. They always want to make some huge trade, even if it sucks or something, just because it's like, that's what I did, right? It's just some stupid ego shit, right? Coach doesn't buy it, but it's, you know, it's what they tell you, right? So they think right away they got to come in and all these picks are sure burning a hole in our pocket. We better ship multiple first rounders together time after time again to take one player who's a bust, right? So they just could not help but just burn through the fucking cupboard. Like, I promise you, it was at a point to where I was feeling so cocky over it. When things were not in different ownership, like before this happened, Coach couldn't wait to rub Celtics. Like, you have no idea what we got in the cupboard, dude. Like, have you seen all these resources and, like, who's coming into the draft the next few years? Like, we could have Luka. We could have, you know, you fucking name it, dude. We could, almost any combination of all-stars or superstars in the league today, you could have said, oh, yeah, they could have 3 or 4 of those guys at a time on their team, no problem. Probably have one on the bench even. I mean, you're talking, they could add a big 7 or something. And the proof is they had 3 number 1 overall picks when they hadn't had one since Iverson. 3 number 1 overall picks. Iverson was drafted in 1996. 3 number 1 overall picks. And they come away with Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, and Joel Embiid. You get a guy who can't shoot, a guy who can't shoot, and a guy who can't stay healthy. Well, the guy who can't stay healthy is still on the court. And for a guy who can't stay healthy, they've sure seemingly done, like, everything to this point to make sure he's never available for the playoffs. So maybe if this is the one year they finally focus on winning a championship, they might be able to do it. Because I've never seen them try to do that. it's literally insane. Like, hey, this is the year Embiid's going to win MVP. He's going to win the scoring challenge. Like, can we just fucking win a goddamn round of the playoffs? I don't care about your little but you know, that's how they are. But at the same time, you know, when you have a superstar like with that personality type, and Coach says it's all bullshit, right? But they're still, like, playing him up like he's the prima donna diva, right? Well, if you got the prima donna diva and you want him to turn it on and win a championship, he better have the confidence of having, like, an MVP and a scoring. Like, you know, he's gotta have reason to believe he's the best, especially when it's someone like Embiid who's, like, new to the sport-ish, right? He didn't grow up with it. You gotta have something there, some sort of personal awards where he knows how valuable he is. so he can truly believe, right? So coach thinks that's what that's about, and why Nikolai Jokic more able to hit the ground running. He's mentally tougher than Embiid, and maybe not that okay. I don't think necessarily mentally tougher, because when you really think about it, it's like impossible to argue that anybody's mentally tougher than Embiid at times with all that he's been through. But there are times we've seen him quit, which is extremely frustrating, right? But he's also had a billion times more reasons that like anybody would have quit than the few times he actually chose to, right? So it's understandable. He's been through more, and what it really is that Embiid is more emotional and more sensitive. So like coach thinks he's every bit as mentally tough, and he can out tough Jokic, right? But it's a process, right? As you would expect, because he's got to digest things. You know, he's got to get over it. He's got to cry it out after. You know, Embiid has to experience the full range of spectrum, you know, of like emotions and stuff. Where it seems more like a Jokic just comes in the league and just more about business. Right, so Embiid's been more marketing, all that sort of stuff. You know, he's a big superstar. He loves the people. You know, so he's gone like the roundabout way to success. But coach says his window's got to be slamming shut soon. It's got to be slamming shut soon. He's getting so old. He's had so many injuries. Maxey, every single year, people say, wow, he's on a whole other level than we ever thought he could get to. So now we're like 3 notches past what the most optimistic Maxey fan thought we were going to get out of a player that we told you was the steal of the draft at the time. It's not like we didn't think he was a superstar. We just didn't know, like, is this the next Iverson? Like, holy shit, this kid is nuts. So if you're not aware, Maxey is a premium player. And if Maxey isn't on this team, and Maxey doesn't have everything in his, you know, coach doesn't believe in DNA or genetics, but we're talking like sports rhetoric, right? If he doesn't have everything in his championship DNA, blah, 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 to suggest he's the perfect counter to Embiid and he can be relied on in any situation, all you pretty much needed to see was draft day, him sitting there with his dad. This is a kid that had fallen way below where he should have been, right? Sound familiar? Guy fell way below where he should have been, right next to his strong dad. Once again, like Dion, right next to his strong dad, and he's all smiles. He can't wait to get to Philadelphia. I'm the 19th pick in the draft. Whoop-de-fucking-do. He's not worried about what didn't happen. He's not worried about who didn't take him. He gets to go play basketball for a living, get paid a lot of money, and he's gonna make the most of every opportunity. He doesn't need to have a Jordan deal. He's gonna be with New Balance. And he's going to be all smiles. He's going to be the happiest shoe-sponsored athlete you've ever seen. And he's with a shoe nobody wants to rock on the court, right? Except unless it's the Maxeys. You might wear the Maxeys. You're not rocking some other New Balance to the court, right? In coach's opinion. So, I mean, he's everything you can want in a player. I would want Maxey to be my son. Like, dead ass. He's like the most proud I've ever been of, like, any player in the history of sports. Even Shedeur. At this point, because, you know, Shedeur, one, had a lot more going for him, and he hasn't had as long to prove himself, right? Whereas Maxey, it's just, I like, if it weren't for Maxey, I probably wouldn't even, not only would I not have the balls to take them, I might have just been completely checked out. I've barely watched any games for a while, but, like, I wouldn't even have an affinity for the Sixers if it weren't for that dude. I'm dead serious. Right, so it's very suspicious we have a player that's so much like Iverson, right, and all the other connections. But let's see, coach didn't get to the rest. Let's see. So many similarities: generational superstar centers, secondary stars that can explode on offense at any given moment. This is a couple years old, right? So some of this might be outdated. But so much depth on both sides with role players that have championship experience, and of course the motivation to rewrite their reputations after several early round exits. So coach thinks Nuggets Sixers lights the sports world on fire. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what's happening in hockey at that time, nothing. This is huge. This is, you're watching the heavyweight championship. This is Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, right? Years ago, or or whatever. You know, this or in 5 years, this is Tyson Fury versus Mike Tyson, because we know that's going to be the big super fight. I don't care what anybody says, right? So anyway, Nuggets in 3. That's funny. Let's see. You know, Embiid's problem is conditioning. Denver's notoriously the hardest place to keep your conditioning right because of the elevation. Now, the only thing I don't like is there's nothing connecting the Sixers to the Nuggets this year. I'm 100% in on the Sixers, as weird as that sounds. But there's still possibly some weird scenario, and I really think this is just Coach overthinking it. So please don't put too much stock into it. Coach just tells you everything. Maybe they're doing Lakers-Sixers rematch first, and then you get Embiid and Jokic. Maybe. And I just don't think anybody... Man, it is so tough. Like, Jokic is going crazy right now, like he always has. Like, there's nothing that says we need to wait, right? So it's not like, oh, this needs to simmer, this needs to simmer. It's just that LeBron is in the way and happened to have Luka right there for, like, no reason. But to me, when the Nuggets beat that team and they already have a championship, who in the fuck is taking the Sixers? So that's why I think it is here and now, and it's perfectly set up. I'm sorry this was like a bit more of a ramble. And like I said, I'd like to give you a bit more visuals to go with and be a bit tighter. You know, Coach did a timing on like one of his videos where he's just like talking normally and everything's completely, like I picked a segment to where there's no way you could have missed a single word that I said, right? It was like me being like really trying to just talk normally, right? Coach timed himself at 90 words in 30 seconds, clear as day. So Coach can definitely get through it fast. There are times where I sputter out, but I hope you have time to step back and think about how compact Coach makes things in comparison to literally any other video maker on YouTube. Like, how many people you go to and they're literally like talking slow and they're dragging it out and they got a big victory lap at the end, right? Coach doesn't do that shit. So anyway, and think about that you get to dismiss the Sixers because it's weak. The Eastern Conference is weak. There's no Celtics. Who would they beat, right? Whereas it's like, oh, wow. The Nuggets beat the Thunder and the Lakers. And who cares if the Sixers beat the Knicks, which they certainly would. There's no way they wouldn't be on that. Pistons, too. Pistons going to be in the way. I'm almost positive of that one. And maybe like Cleveland or something. Those would be the 3 I guess I'd pick. But Cleveland last, and you can swap them out for somebody else if we think of something better. Now, Coach